Hi, Mig. How are you? Thank you for coming on the show today.
Hi, how are you? I'm doing
I'm great. I'm really glad we got your hair all situated.
yeah. Hair, light, everything. We're all good and ready to go.
We're good. We're ready to go. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. For everybody who's not familiar with your work, can you just give us a brief description of kind of the role that you play in our industry and what you've done in the past to where you are now?
Yeah, so I am the co-owner and co-founder of Asteria. It's a music festival, which is a festival that's going on its fourth year now. And I also do artist development and management.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, I know you do so many consultations with up and coming aspiring producers in Florida, which is super sick. And you run that through Asteria as well, right?
Asteria and artist space.
Yes. Yeah. And artist space. Cool. So explain to me what artist space is.
Well, artist space is pretty much a collective of a bunch of graphic designers and just, PR personnel,
Hmm.
everything that you can go ahead and think of that's related to the music industry. And we try to work within a set budget for any sort of artist, whether they're up and coming, whether they're just starting out, whether they're already established, and we help them and give them tools to expand their careers and take it to new heights.
That's super awesome. And you're still doing stuff with artist space actively now?
I'm kind of hands off unless I want to, really like the project or
Hmm.
really want to get involved with the project. I pretty much leave it to, the people that I put in charge to kind of handle
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. It's cool because you don't see too many collectives like that who are kind of like, okay, this is what we're here for. You see more like marketing, this and that, instead of like consultation appointments and things really just to help people guidance wise level up their craft or take their project to the next level. So that's super dope. Has that been going on 4 years too?
That's been going on since 2016, actually.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so a little bit longer, but yeah, you're already to your fourth year of Asteria. I mean, the lineup for this year, even though a few people haven't been announced yet, is just like wild. I mean, from looking at year one to year four, has it just been insane to see not only like the talent grow, but the attendance, the team, everything?
Yeah, the team has grown, the attendance has grown, the artists have grown, everything has, been insane just going ahead and
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy.
year, every year we face new challenges, even more so this year. And we have been doing great, keeping up on everything. And it's been a challenge, but, you learn something new every single year, and that helps you apply it to the next year and so on and so forth. It's always, it's a never ending learning experience.
Oh, definitely. And it just makes you like stronger and better and more like inept to handle things that might come at you in the future. I mean, especially with the pandemic happening, obviously, what were your first thoughts when you were like, holy shit, this is actually going to affect all of us and we're going to have to adapt and really change the way that we approach live events, period, moving forward.
Yeah, it was rough, but I mean, that's the same story for everyone. I think that the biggest objective for everybody was to kind of just see how we can adapt and the things that we need to do to change in order to survive in a pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what
That's
are
the reality of it. I've seen. I think it was the other day that I saw an artist going ahead and doing paintings and auctioning them off and doing limited edition stuff like
yeah.
instead of releasing music, he just decided to do a bunch of paintings and sell them. It's everybody's doing live streams. So
Mhm.
people were people had to think on their toes really quickly in order to replace that source of income that they immediately ended up losing because of the fact that there's no tours, no shows, no anything.
And especially for our industry, it's like so many, such a large percentage of all of these artists' incomes are touring. They're strictly touring DJs, especially taking into account how little most people make off of their like actual music streams in electronic dance music. So it's like you really have to start thinking out of the box. And even with these live streams, like so many of these guys, aren't getting paid for the live streams. And a lot of these guys are streaming, but it's like, subscriptions and like Twitch donations can only amount to so much money. So it's like you have to be creative. And half these guys are here on visas, which means they can't collect unemployment. They can't go get a normal job. They're here to perform. And if performing isn't a thing, it's like, what the fuck are they supposed to do?
Can't do anything because then they would be breaking the law.
It's so crazy. And it's like we're fortunate enough to live in a state where even though everybody thinks we're an idiot, we're allowed to at least try and sustain some sort of income. And that's the approach that our state has taken, but there's not many others that have taken that approach to allow most businesses to keep operating. I mean, you look at LA right now and they just passed an order for all of outdoor dining restaurants to be closed, period, until like 3 weeks into January. And it's like, that's so crazy that like we're able to go out of our house and like there's music events and things that, certain capacity and pods and our gyms are open. And then you go somewhere else within our same country and it's like, you literally can't go outside.
Yeah. I mean, right now, the reality is that the music industry is, I think, 27.9 or something like that $billion a year in industry, and I think it's lost almost 9.9 billion. So
and people don't understand that, people don't get that.
Massive. It's been a massive impact to everybody involved in the music industry. And not even people directly involved in the music industry, right? Because there's other people that we don't think of. We don't think of like, the people that are attendees or employees of stadiums and concert halls and stuff like that. The people that scan your tickets are out of jobs too,
Absolutely. I mean, it's everyone down to like janitor services, It's like all the way up the chain. It's not just the performers. It's not just the event promoters or the talent buyers or the agents and the managers. It's all of these people that aren't even like directly related to the live entertainment industry or working in that field are also out of a job.
Absolutely. I mean, think of all the temp companies all the temp employees that are used, because a lot of people are temp workers, a lot of temp agencies do events, right? Like whether it be security, whether it be staff. That's like why it's always like a weird group of misfits that's like doing like event security when you go to these places. Like
you're like, holy shit.
Like none of them look like they all like should be working together, but somehow they're working together, So yeah, I mean, all those groups are affected, and those people rely on that income too. I mean, there's a bunch of people that rely on the music industry and it functioning, and it being shut down just minimizes a bunch of work. It minimizes stuff, where you would have, look at the comparison of you as an artist can set up, all of this, like your podcast and everything, and set it up and put it out there to the world, all by your lonesome. You don't have to hire anybody for that,
Correct.
So is like, the overhead for all of these things, the live streams, minimizes overhead, that a typical club has. So yeah, a lot of people are finding ways to survive, but it's not a sustainable method of survival.
No, it's like a ticking time bomb to the fact that a lot of people also don't understand that a lot of these independent venues that don't have overhead or investors behind them are just not going to come back. And they're not going to be, and they're just not. I mean, I listen to stuff where all of these comedy clubs are closing and all of these restaurants are closing. And it's the mom and pop places that aren't unionized, that have nothing to do with a higher political standard, whether it's lobbying or X, Y, and Z, that just aren't going to be saved. I mean, we haven't even gotten the money for the Save Our Stages Act that was supposed to be passed like 6 months ago, 6 months ago. And I think that's now just coming with the next round of stimulus, right?
Yeah. Right. It is, but the thing is that there's a lot of companies that, once again, we run into, the qualifying factors. A lot of them, a lot of businesses don't go ahead and like a lot of the people that might go ahead and be needing these loans might not either be educated enough to educated about them enough to apply for them or feel comfortable applying for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have big corporations that already have their lawyers, and their whole entire accounting team and all that stuff at the ready with the paperwork, ready to submit it like that,
Yeah, and then the money's gone.
And then the money's gone, right? So it's a iffy situation, and we're gonna have to see how it plays out. We're gonna see what really goes ahead and happens, because a lot of these clubs also already, you got to think, a lot of these clubs went ahead and switched from being, concert halls and venues to being like restaurants and like this and that in order to operate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how that's going to work when they switch back, or to try to take advantage of like, money like this. That's also something that I'm curious about. It's difficult because I want to know more. I want to know more about it, but I also want to prepare, because we on the side, we also go ahead and help, business. We do business management as well, right? Mm-hmm. So we've had conversations with, with the first time that PPP loans came out, for small businesses and employees and stuff. We had a bunch of questions about those. And, we try to give the best information that we can, but even to us, it was confusing. So I think that the education towards these loans is so important, so that people can know how to apply for them directly, so that they can be on top of their game, so they can beat some of these big corporations, because that's the reality. We're going to have to see how this Save Our Stages Act plays out, how the money is actually distributed. And to be completely honest, some of these places are already closed down. Some of these places,
they're past saving.
It's past saving, it's too late for them. So
yeah,
what do we do about those places? What do we do in those scenarios? I feel like a lot. It's such an iffy situation, right? Because part of me feels like some of these landlords that have forced these places to shut down, and forced them in the way of like not working together to find some sort of resolution during this time to come to agreeable terms, as far as like rent is concerned. Because a lot of people don't realize is that their favorite venue is probably leasing the space.
Correct.
They might have been there for like 20, 30, 50, almost 100 years, but it's still leasing the space. They don't, some of these places don't own that space, right?
Correct.
So they're paying rent to be there consistently every single year, every single month, So I think that some of those, I feel like those landlords should go ahead and be held accountable to some extent, or, not in a legal way, but, just they should be working with each other. You know what I'm saying? But
they absolutely should.
But it's just like, I also get it from the landlord's point,
the landlord deserves to get paid. Like, they do deserve to get paid, but it's just like, in my opinion, it's an oversight failure from our state's government.
And that's what it boils down to, right? When you start seeing the fact that there's two parties that aren't at fault for what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. It's neither the tenant or the landlord's fault. That's when the government should realistically step in. And that just kind of shows the failure that, leadership overall, Democrats and Republicans, just have failed to go ahead and prepare, specifically prepare a fail-safe or a backup plan for independent contractors, which is what we all are, in the music industry. A majority of us, unless you're working for one of the big guys, you are an independent contractor. That means that you're in charge of everything, including your healthcare. So it's difficult. It's very difficult to be in one of the sectors that kind of gets ignored when everything's okay and we don't have disasters like this, right?
Yeah.
But then we end up in situations where we're like now, where we're rushing a bunch of legislation and we're rushing a bunch of shit, right? And unfortunately, we live in a government where we need to read the fine print, because as I'm sure that you found out, there was a ton of stuff, even stuff that affected streamers and even people sharing memes and stuff, like,
Yeah.
like inside a COVID relief bill, just like smashed in there, just like, a little paragraph like on the bottom, um, and putting ourselves in situations where we pass things just on the fly isn't good either. We should
No.
always be prepared for situations like this. And I understand that you can't be prepared for everything, but there's no reason that we shouldn't have some sort of plan of attack that we can all come into agreement with,
Well, this whole thing, this whole past year has been, in my opinion, a hell of a lot worse than it should have been, could have been, because of lack of preparation. But again, the other end of it is shit happens and we can't go back and change the past. We just can move forward.
Right.
However, you would hope if anything like this in this kind of conceptual perspective were to happen again, that this disaster does not follow. And it just really, really sucks because it's like, of course, it's like all of the fine print that the average person is not there to read or understand because there's not a liaison for the independent contractors or for the mom and pop businesses. And you're just pretty much left to die. And I feel like that is what's fueling the ever-growing like division in our country between the top and the bottom. And it's really scary in my perspective. Like, I have the conversations with even my parents all the time. It's like, what's going to happen to all these kids who haven't been in school for 6 months to a year? What's going to, and I'm not talking about the kids who have the parents who have the funds to hire homeschooling or have the time to, sit down and talk to them and help them out with what's going on. It's the people in low income housing. It's the average blue collar worker who has to go to work and has to continue to provide for their family or try and collect some sort of unemployment. Where I talked to like my step little cousin, and he had a complete 6-month block where he was just not learning in 4th grade. And it's like, what are the long-term effects of that and the long-term effects of all of this stuff?
My little brother right now is doing the online schooling, and my mom used to go ahead and be a teacher as well. And even her opinion is that it's horrible. And then one of my closest friends, his son is in a private school that has, done the online schooling, and then it's the same. And then I also know, teachers and that are really frustrated because you're throwing this never in their lives where they sign up
Yeah.
to online classes
And then, like, I know the teachers went on strike because they weren't receiving hazard pay and, like, all of this other stuff where it's just these long-term effects that we might not see now, but maybe in the next 5 to 10 years we'll see them. And it's just, it sucks because it's like even the people that you have working underneath you as a team for Asteria are all 1099s, correct?
Yep, most of them. Yep.
So, and it's even with like a boutique festival like yours, you still have what, a few hundred employees, give or take. And a lot of them are volunteers to come to the festival, but a lot of them offer value, like the production value and the TMs and all of the people you have put into place to make sure the festival functions.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, have you taken any cutbacks moving forward or have had to increase your team because of the COVID precautions?
To increase our team, just not necessarily due to COVID, but mostly due to the overall growth of the festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because of our growth, we've had to, expand the team. I can't, it's grown to the point where I just can't do it just by myself. And then obviously with COVID and everything like that, we've been doing extensive training and getting certifications and following all kind of reading as much materials as possible so that we can follow implement the correct guidelines that we feel are going to keep, our attendees safe for Asteria this year. So that requires an entire team,
Absolutely.
But the same way that you're seeing, COVID compliances teams pop out all over the place, you're seeing places at theme parks that are taking temperatures and doing all that jazz. I think that COVID has taken away some jobs, but it's also added some jobs.
Mhm.
It's added some new positions for teams. It's made us, I think it's going to help us be in the future, be more aware about the overall hygiene and just like, you know, germ distribution and bacteria
Which
distribution.
is what should have always been there
Just,
to begin
yeah,
with.
right? Like, and wash your hands, you know, like.
I just remember it's like wash your hands, count 30. Like when you're a little kid, and it's like somewhere between that point and a person becoming a young adult to a full blown adult, they like lose that. And they also lose like the conception for trying to be active and trying to be healthy and trying to build up your immune system, because the people who are getting hit the hardest with this disease are people who don't take care of themselves. And it's real, and it's hard, and it's like, yes, some people have, you know, pre-compromised immune systems, and it's like that shit you just can't control, but you can control the vitamins you take, and you can control the amount of water you drink, and the time you spend in the sun, and the time that you try and, you know, eat your veggies and eat your fruits, and like all of that shit matters. Taking a shower matters, washing your hands matters. And it's like we've watched other continents like Asia wear masks forever. They wear masks for a really long time. So it's just something where it's like maybe it hit us in the face. I don't know what it is, but I think a lot of people are going to be a lot more conscious moving forward. And I definitely think that's a better thing than not.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that it's crucial, you know, that we've been able, I think it's great that we've been able to take those steps and cautious and kind of get everybody, you know, educated in the different scenarios, because there's a lot of information out there, right? So it's not like it's not readily available. It's just all about being informed and trying to get, you know, valid news sources like CDC, and, you know, sometimes there might be disagreements in how things are done, right? Which has been a hot topic of debate, you know, how if you should wear masks, if you shouldn't, if this and that. And the reality is that if I'm trying to operate, I need to follow those guidelines,
Yeah.
whether I agree with them or not. You know, whether I think that it's right or it isn't right, that's what I need to do in order to operate, because that's the guidelines that have been implemented by the government, aka
Correct.
the person allowing me to proceed with what I'm doing. So, you know, I think that, you know, getting all the event promoters and everybody that is involved in the event industry, and with the time that we don't have, that we have right now, because of the fact that we're not doing events and everything, we should touch up on those things, right?
Correct.
We should do our due diligence in order, and it's only going to go ahead and help you. I mean, it's not like it's going to look bad on your resume, instead of, you know, sitting here that, you know, you had to end up doing like 30, 40, you know, hour weeks doing Uber or DoorDash or whatever. If you at least took like, you know, 2 hours of your like Saturday or night to touch up on these like certifications that are available for free, you know, or learning, you know, these new guidelines in place for whatever city or state you live in, can be extremely beneficial moving into 2021.
I mean, I think that's a great piece of advice, because it's like not only another hat you can wear, which is so important on being in the back end of the industry, of being able to offer multiple things coming to the table. It's going to help anybody who wants to be in live events moving forward, give them an advantage point by having these certifications and being knowledgeable in X, Y, and Z, because this shit isn't going away. People are going to be health conscious for at least the next decade moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 100%.
So as Asteria has grown, I mean, it's always been a very like meshed kind of bill with local support and regional support, and then like headliners to top tier headliners. Like this year is definitely a huge lineup, one of the biggest lineups to date. I mean, you've got Rusco and all of these OGs, Delta Heavy, you have More Kismet back. I mean, what's it been like to watch More Kismet grow from last year to this year, even with the pandemic?
Emotional as fuck.
Right? Right? I remember when you messaged me, you're like, this is probably like a year and a half ago. You're like, Lizzie, who the fuck is coming up? Who's good? Like, who's whatever? And I was like, yo, you gotta fucking check out this 13-year-old. And you're just like, or 14 or whoever the fuck he was. But
you're fucking crazy. All right, I'm in.
yeah, you're like, okay. And I mean, I remember Jared Too Kind was originally the one who showed him to me. And I remember reaching out to him. I was like, dude, I don't know if I need to talk to your mom. I don't know if I need to talk to somebody else, but I would love to have you on my show. Like, your music's kick ass. But it's like, it's so cool that that's the growth I feel like you're able to see because you have that belief in like lower card artists at the time, or artists who have honestly no traction behind them, to see them go from like 1 to 2. Like people like Pixel Terror, people like Chime, who have really just like come into their own, especially with this whole new like melodic wave that's happened over the last year. And now they're just huge players.
Yeah. I mean, the entire purpose of Asteria, since I started doing anything related to that project, has always been to give a platform to up and coming artists. You know, that's always been our focus. And, you know, almost using the larger artists, the audience that the larger artist is going to go ahead and be bringing in to allow us to strategically place, you know, undercard artists in the lineup so that they can receive the crowd that we feel they truly deserve, right? And we do a lot of prepping in our group, and it's like prepping in the sense of we educate them of like these artists as they're coming up. You know, sometimes there's been artists that I don't want to call it promote, because we don't necessarily promote. We just find really good songs that we enjoy as they come out and as they're released. And we make sure to share those tracks with like our audience, you know? And that allows us to slowly build throughout the year, a genuine fan base for that artist, so that when we bring that artist, although they may not have had a Florida fan base before, they now have it coming in. You know,
absolutely. And I mean, all of that shit helps them. And I feel like the hardest part, it's like, especially with like my journey, and I'm sure so many other like undercard artists can relate, is that like people don't know who you are. Like they haven't discovered you. So how could they ever like you if they don't know who you are and the music that you release and what you know, what your brand is, what you stand for, anything that could be relatable to a general like consumer that listens to electronic music. And it's really cool because it's like you just don't get those big property festivals that do that, period.
No, and what I've liked the I take it almost as it's a big honor, first of all, to be able to give out that sort of platform, but it's also a huge responsibility as well, you know, because we understand that people now trust us to curate something that's going to be, you know, a lineup that, yeah, you can go ahead and see these artists wherever, you know, anywhere you want to. But what makes Asteria special is the way that we curate, you know, our lineups and the stages and the amount of detail that we put into how we flow and structure the night. You know, there's a lot of thought that goes into, you know, where most festivals just kind of throw everybody into a lineup and have all managers agree and be like, oh, okay, cool, you know. And then just kind of like scatter them all over. We take a lot of pride in, you know, curating our
You curate every name. Every name is selected. It's not like, oh, we're going to get this bigger guy.
Yeah, we don't book anybody that we don't listen to. We don't book anybody that we don't feel resonates with our audience, right? Yeah. We're very open and transparent with the way that we operate. When it comes to booking artists, when it comes to selecting our vendors, when it comes to selecting, you know, our live artists, as far as like, you know, painters and performers and all that stuff, we involve our group and our community heavily in those steps. So if it's not something that we feel they're going to vibe with, it's not something that we go after, you know? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's very special as well, you know?
Definitely. I mean, I feel like your Facebook group for Asteria is like one of the strongest communities that I see for a festival. And it's like all of these guys act like they're family. And it's so cool because you don't get that normal feel when you attend a festival, whether it's small or big. You don't get that community sense feeling. And I know that since you all have curated this, and like all the people who buy tickets to the festival understand that you've taken the time to do it, I feel like they play a part in making sure it's like a safe environment for everybody to have fun in, to do their stuff, and they watch out for each other like they're all their family. And that's just like super cool. And I feel like a lot of festivals can't really say that they can achieve that. But I mean, that's dope. Like, it's grown so much. And the fact that you're like an artist manager as well, because I now know you're working with Silent Child, who's more vocalist, multi-genre faceted, producer as well. But you worked with kind of strictly producers beforehand, which was like Heritage. Who else did you work with? You worked with a few people.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with you.
Yeah, I know. But hey, it's like you look at strictly like those producers and you can understand the back end of giving someone like me or like Aaron a chance to come and play at festival at a higher level.
I think that one of my biggest, I think that one of the biggest gives in the sense of like, you know, like what draws me to an artist, like, you know, like what drew me to Aaron, what drew me to you, what drew me to More Kismet, what drew me to Rodney, Silent Child, is that you guys, anybody wants to go ahead, like everybody wants to go ahead and do this, right?
Yeah.
But very few have that determination where they go ahead and understand the steps that it's going to take those steps, fail, right? Know that they have to go ahead and work on A, B, C, whatever. Go back to the drawing board, actually work on those things, come back, you know, and have that sort of like, you know, until you get a polished product. And every single one of you guys have been able to go ahead and do that, you know? And I feel like that's been like one of the biggest things for me. Aaron, you know, before I even worked with him on anything, he was sending me tracks for almost 3 years, 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was seeing more consistency with his sound and his production that I was like, all right, bro, let's fucking do this shit. I want to go ahead and do something with you, you know? Like,
yeah.
Went from there, you know? And you know, same with you. It wasn't until I went ahead and saw you at the Den, shit.
Gosh, yeah.
Like,
so
you know,
long ago.
Like, and I saw you firsthand, and I saw how you were DJing and stuff like that. And you know, I really wanted you to work on that production and shit because I knew that you already had the DJing shit part down. And then, boom, you know what I'm saying? And same with like, you know, Silent Child. Silent Child is somebody who, you know, is now learning how to do his performances live. You know, yeah. He's got the, you know, production aspect down and everything like that. But now we need to work on his live performance. So now we're trying to go ahead and bring in like a drum pad. We're trying to bring in like live guitar. We're trying to go ahead and bring in, you know, my like vocals, you know, all the fun stuff. And that, once again, it's something that's going to take polishing until you have a perfect product that you know, that you can present to everybody. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like so many people, because even through COVID, everybody still wants to be a fucking DJ. I'm not sure why, but it's like people don't understand those steps that have to be taken in almost 98% of careers. Like in 98% of people's like journey, if you're really doing the work, you visit the drawing board very, very, very often. The whole time. Yeah.
Multiple times. And you got like, you know, one of the biggest things is not being so eager to get rewarded out of it, you know? Like you shouldn't like sit down, fiddle with like, you know, a DAW, you know, and be like, oh yeah, I should have like a Skrillex banger right now.
I was about to say I'm Skrillex. I am Skrillex. But yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely correct. And it's like that was my problem for so long, was that like I didn't have patience. I was like, okay, I did X, Y, and Z. Like, why the fuck isn't this happening? And like that's something also that is so important to understand, that there's actually very like little short-term gratification in
Yeah.
this period. Like you're in it for the long haul. And that's why I feel like if you're like a clout DJ, like I got my followers, I got my likes, I got this and this and that, you're
That's
gonna be
yeah.
really disappointed.
I mean, if you're trying to go ahead and make it an EDM, yes, you're going to be really disappointed. But like, if you're trying to go ahead and go that route, that's totally fine. That's what top 40 and club DJs are for. Like,
Yeah.
there's plentiful, and let me tell you, the job security is way better. Like, so.
Yeah.
So by all means, take your clout DJing and take it to like a club and do a club night or top 40 or some shit like that. But if you're trying to do that with like EDM and you have no production whatsoever, you're gonna have a bad time. You're
Yeah.
gonna have a terrible time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a process. You have to be ready to like, I think the easiest way to get that like anxiousness of like, okay, this is a long haul, is to just start and just fucking do it already, because that's the only way you're going to get closer to failing, closer to learning, closer to doing better at the same concept.
Start doing it already right off the bat, and then instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get to it," or "I'm gonna get to it," and be happy of all your little achievements. It's okay to be proud of those. Like,
You have to be. You
if
get told so many times.
exactly. If you laid out like, just like a drum beat or like simple, super, super simple, and you made it sound super crisp and it's to your liking, be proud of that, like there's no reason to be like, oh, well, it's not a full completed song, so I'm just going to kick myself in the ass. Like, you're not doing anybody a favor by putting yourself, you're like, why are you beating yourself up?
No.
Why? Like, yes, hold yourself accountable, learn, like say, like structure yourself in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to take, an hour to learn this every single day, or I'm going to, educate myself on this or that for an extra 2 hours on this specific day. You have to put that dedication in 100%, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be proud of like any little accomplishment or anything that you feel is an achievement for you, right? Because at the end of the day, this is your career, it's for you, right? So just because Timmy from next door is skyrocketing through their courses, and is making banger after banger, that doesn't mean that you're dumb. That doesn't mean that you're not getting it. That doesn't mean that it's, you're learning at your own pace, and the music that you're going to create, Timmy ain't going to create your music for you, right? So like he's not going to steal your ideas and make him himself. The music that you want to create is still going to be in your head, So
Absolutely. And I mean,
expanding and learning and just being motivated and holding yourself accountable to the fact that if you want to succeed in this, you're gonna have to put that dedication in.
that's it. And it's like so many people, including myself, and I think any new artist has gone through this facet where you want to just skip the steps and you don't want to do the steps, and you don't want to do the work in these like points where you're like, damn, like I know I'm not fucking good at this. Like, how can I get around it? I can't tell you how many times I've been like, how can I like not do this and do it some other way to get the same exact result? And it's not. And it's like, and if you can understand that at the get-go, you're going to save yourself so much time and so much wraparound time where you're just making things less efficient than they need to be. And it's like you're a nice enough person to where you give like consultation to a lot of these like regional to non-regional artists on, just problems that they're going through, like roadblocks in their journey. And it's like, what are some of the things that you most commonly hear from these artists where they're just like beating their head against the wall?
Just self-doubt.
Yeah.
Realistically, like that's one of the biggest things. It's just like getting around that mental hurdle of like exactly what I just touched on, is just not having that immediate reward, right? Mm-hmm. Like you feel like because I opened up FL Studio and I didn't come out with like a full-length track or this or that, like when I closed it down, that I'm a failure. I didn't do anything,
yeah.
you know, like I get frustrated, or I feel burnt out. Like, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a self-paced educational journey,
Yeah.
ain't nobody, holding you hostage, telling you to be a music producer or be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are normal struggles. There's no reason for you to feel, that like you're not progressing, or that, the only person that's going to know if you're not making any progress is yourself, right? You can't lie to yourself. And that's the reality of it. If you know you still need to work on A, B, or C, then you need to hold yourself accountable and learn A, B, and C, and dedicate the time to learning those things, and not skip around them. And that's the reality of it. You need to put dedication and focus, and be really determined, really determined to put yourself in grind, and be okay with the fact that not every day is going to be a win, but you can be proud of the progress that you've made, whether it's, a 10% or 15% or even 2%, sort of progress. Like, you should be happy with the fact, because ultimately you're going to know the work that you put in, right?
Absolutely.
So if you know for a fact that you sat there and you put some hard work, you broke a sweat trying to get that done, then be happy, be proud. You put in that work, you put in that effort.
Absolutely.
That's what counts at the end of the day. Doesn't it? The result doesn't count until, result, badly put, the result count, but immediate results aren't what go ahead and matter in this industry. Is those long-term results, right?
Absolutely.
Even with artists that become popular overnight, cool. Like, they go ahead and make 3-4 tracks, they tour for 2 years, and then they're out. They just go ahead and disappear.
That's not long term. Like, that's not long term. And it's like, everyone starts this because they love it, obviously. But it's like, it's very easy to think short-minded. It's like, how the fuck did that person just pop up? If they did, usually they've been at it for a while, but how did that person just pop up? Because it sometimes does happen. And how are they on the touring circuit with X amount of releases, X amount of this, X amount of that? But it's like, you can only, don't compare yourself to other people. Only compare yourself to where you're at and where you want to go, because
they're going to fade out.
Correct. That would be correct. And that's the hardest issue I feel like I find when talking to other colleagues, whether they're at a higher level or a lower level than I am, or if they're a beginner, whatever, is like, why the fuck is that happening to that person and not happening to me? Because I put the work in. And you can't hold that in your heart, because it's just going to take up space that should be taken up by something else. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day too, like, this shit shouldn't be a burden, because you're working more hours than you would ever work doing a 9-to-5, that you would ever work doing another job. So it's like, you might as well love it. Like, and you have to like the music that you're making. Like, I listen to my fucking music all the time. I had a podcast with Swarm yesterday. He loves his music. He's like, I'm my number one top fan. And like, you should be your number one fan, because you should be happy with the product that you're producing. And if you're not happy with it yet, that's okay. You're not going to fucking sound like Skrillex out the door. Like, it's not possible.
And I'm sure that, you've gone fairly far since your start, and you have a long way to go, but I'm sure that even now you appreciate or wish you could go back to like moments where you were just starting out and just learning everything, because it was just so innocent.
Oh yeah.
and so like less hostile, and it was so much more fun. And that's the reality of it. It loses it's almost like a new childhood, and it's slowly, as you get more involved in the music industry, it starts losing its innocence.
But the goal is to not lose that.
Yeah, and you got to
still keep that.
Yep, you got to enjoy the journey. You can't go ahead and be rushing it, because a lot of the people who are in music in general, not just electronic, but a lot of the people that have rushed their journeys end up not in a good spot. They end up either washed up or burnt out, or just like not really thriving anymore. They have like one hit or, you know, do dumb shit to stay relevant. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just one of those things, you know. You have to know what you're getting yourself into, you know, and you have to realize that it's not all fun and games, and it's a tough road, both mentally and physically.
Definitely. And I feel like, especially over like quarantine, with like the unfortunate number of people we have lost close to us in this community, is putting a light on something that is very often ignored when it comes to mental health and the people you're surrounding yourself with, and your team members holding yourself as well as you holding them accountable to staying on track. And that's something that, you know, and it makes me mad because it's like, even with everything that's happened, it's like we live in a world where something's a 30-second trend and then it disappears.
Yep.
And no matter what it is, if you're trying to cancel someone for playing a COVID show, if somebody, you know, said something online, or some girl came out and said, you know, he did this to me at a club, it's like a 12-hour window where everybody needs to say their mark, and then the next day starts and it's been forgotten. And that's what I feel like has happened with this whole talk on mental illness. And it's like, how are we going to move forward expecting a change when we're doing the same thing over and over again? Like, how are we going to make that difference to where this shit doesn't happen? Because, you know, when it happens, other people are aware that it's happening on their team. Other people are enabling it. And it's like, we live in an industry where people don't want to talk about it because it definitely is less accepted than it used to be with drugs and alcohol and all of that shit. But people still do it behind closed doors nonstop. So it's like, where is the line drawn, if at all ever drawn, where it's like, hey, not only is this like not okay, like do whatever the fuck you want, but like it's not good for you. Like it's not like you're living a hard life anyways. All of these people who are touring all the time, they're not seeing their significant other, they're not seeing their families. They're going from not sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night to sleeping in airport chairs to playing shows where alcohol and drugs are getting shoved in their face. Like, when does that become, hey, like this isn't how it should be? Like, I don't know. Like, does that ever happen?
I mean, I think that's why we need to establish a more, you know, a community that holds themselves more accountable, you know, because everybody's really quick to, you know, put, rest in peace, I'm so sorry for this and that, but we never hear about anybody taking action. Very rarely go ahead and hear about anybody taking action. You know, there's a ton of resources out there the people could go ahead and be using. There's everybody should go ahead and not be an asshole to each other, first of all.
Yeah, first of all.
And we should be, you know, more, I think that we're getting to a point where we're being more accepting of, you know, getting help, being, you know, on the right track. I've seen a lot of people the last 2 years getting sober, and starting their own challenges with friends and all that. So I'm hoping that we are at that point, you know, we're at that point where as a community we're developing and moving forward and being, you know, honest with the reality that touring artists and people in the music industry face. You know, when it comes to substance abuse or when it comes to depression and, you know, things of that nature, we have to be more open about that dialogue. We need to be more open about establishing those lines of communication and being there for each other. You know, I think that if anything, I think the pandemic should honestly have made us realize how similar of the problems that we all face are, right?
It's a very short list.
Yeah, so I feel that should bring us a lot closer together for 2021, in my opinion, right? And that's obviously perfect world scenario. So I'm not saying that everything's perfect, but I feel that the multiple losses that we've had, you know, this year in EDM and their causes, and just music and in the world in general, because we've had some very iconic figures as well go ahead and pass away this year. You know, all related to the same issues. You know, I feel like, you know, music fans tend to put everybody on this, like, you know, holy grail kind of, you know, God tier.
Well, that's why all these people who have no idea what this industry is about wants to be those people on the God tier, because they don't get it.
Tier. Yeah, and they feel that it's all like, you know, it's all rainbows and butterflies, but it's really not.
No.
It's really not. And it goes to show that, you know, even having a full-blown tour schedule doesn't make a lot of these artists happy. You know, having all the money in the world doesn't make these artists fucking happy. But you know, the only thing that makes all of these artists happy is making their music. That's something that they all enjoyed, that, you know, their craft, whether they were actors, whether they were, you know, painters or whatever they did, they loved what they did, right?
And that's, I feel like, the commonality that you'll see in people who stand above the rest is the fact that their number one priority is honing their craft and doing it because they love it. And when that's not your number one, I feel like it eventually shows.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there's artists that have, how do you go ahead and give an example without being like this person?
say person X.
Person X. No, but I mean, it's such a, like, you know, there was a dubstep artist. We'll just go ahead and do it like this. Dubstep,
it's okay. We can piss people off. It's all right.
I don't really want to piss them off. I mean, you know what? It's not a bad thing.
Okay.
So, you know, like, you have somebody like Getter, right? Getter was doing, like, you know, his dubstep tear out, all that shit, like, you know, early roots, you know, he was starting out. And I don't know, like, I just feel, and I don't want to go ahead and assume or anything like that, but I just feel like he was not happy doing that whatsoever. Yeah. And that reflected in his attitude, right? Because there was this huge time, like, you know, a couple months streak where, you know, Getter was just like on one, you know what I'm saying? And everybody was just like, what the fuck, bro? Like, wait, like, are you okay? Like, you know, and then he went off radar, right? Put more attention into his Tara Reid stuff, which
I think he genuinely enjoyed.
Yes, and then he started working on the Visceral project,
which was amazing.
Which was amazing, right? And fans didn't like it, but fuck them, because it was,
them.
You know. But like, he came back with such a more positive and like more happy, like, kind of like attitude, you know. And then obviously the whole Visceral shit fucking what happened, and like that kind of fucking, you know, caused him to go ahead and disappear for a few. But the resilience of that man, you know what I'm saying, to hone his craft, to go ahead and go outside of his box, and you know, acknowledge that he wasn't happy with what he was doing, remove himself from the situation, you know, whether he went ahead and pissed off A, B, or C, or whoever the fuck he went ahead and pissed off.
That doesn't matter, because it's his life.
It's his life, and he decided to step back, focus on himself, focus and put that energy on the projects that he wanted to, and look at the results. A beautiful fucking full-length album and a fucking amazing killer fucking side project. Like, who can be mad at that?
No one.
The dream, you know, and not to mention everything else that he's going ahead and doing, you know. So all power to him, and I'm not trying to go ahead and single him out, but it's just really difficult, like, with like what exactly what you were saying, right? It's difficult for me to try to go ahead and like really discuss that without trying to give some sort of example, you know.
No, that's a perfect example. It's not
that pops into my head immediately, you know.
Yeah, it's not singling him out at all. I mean, I think that's something that a lot of us have, is the step one is like recognizing the issue of why you're unhappy and why you're not happy with where you're at. And it's like, in the back of your mind, you'd be like, oh, like, it's never because I'm like touring or doing this or doing that, because those are all amazing things. But it's like, this shit is not for everyone. Like, a lot of people like look at it from far away, and it's like, and two, it's like, just because you're a phenomenal producer, you might hate it on the road. You might just fucking hate it. And it's like, it sucks because it's something that comes, especially in this genre, kind of with the job. Like, if you do this, you do that. But it's cool. Like, fuck everybody who didn't support his project. Like, you would just hope that he's at peace and more happy with himself
Right.
because he's doing something that he loves to do. And it's like,
That reflected so heavily in both projects.
yeah.
Extremely, you know. So I mean, I understand, you know, like how I don't understand firsthand, but I can understand why it would have been so hurtful to for like, you know, the response of like, you know, that Visceral had, you know.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Like, the project still did well. Like, if you took any project and it came from the ground up, like, it still did well. It's just comparing it to his past with like Getter. Like, that's
Like the thing is that think about it this way, like how good of a producer and artist do you have to be to have dubstep and bass roots for Deadmau5 to go ahead and pick you up and be
yeah.
like, all right, cool. Yeah, like I mean, like this guy hates bass music for like, you know, like 95% of it, you know. So yeah, but he's still respected in the industry as far as like, you know, like the you know the work that he has put in as a producer, you know. So for somebody like him to go ahead and like, you know, just tap him and like be like, yo, like, you know, completely different background from what I'm used to. Like, let's go. It's the same thing that he did with Skrillex, you know? So obviously he saw something in Gutter, and I feel like that's an awesome thing. And I hope that he goes out and pursues and continues to pursue more of what he wants to go ahead and do. Because I feel
I
like
do too. And it's like, and I feel like I've unfortunately had these conversations with these artists that are bigger than me, and they feel like they like have kind of like an ending debt to their team, whether it's management, agents, what, you know, whatever it is, publisher, whatever. And it's like at the end of the day, no matter what it is, those people work for you as an artist. So it's like, even if they don't support maybe a change in path, there's someone out there who will support that change in path. But you have to, like, people just hate change. Sometimes people are more comfortable with staying in a bad position that's making them unhappy than being like, okay, I might piss some people off, but I got to change something because I'm unhappy.
right.
And I feel like that's how everything starts to spiral downward. And then instead of confronting the problem, you find ways to make the problem hurt less.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I mean, that's just one of the many mental struggles that you go through,
Yeah.
you know, as an artist. It's
And I just
comes.
think it's cool though now that I feel like there are some like top tier players, like Black Tiger Sex Machine is an instance because I've had a conversation with them. And like there are guys who are like completely sober and they're like focused on health and they're focused on like, yo, we're going to the gym when we're on tour. We're going to do this and like stuff that you may not want to do, but the long term effect of it and keeping like a good head on your shoulders is going to be totally worth it in the long run. And I like those groups of people because it's like, I feel like in EDM, we're all like sitting at the high school tables, like the meme. And it's like everyone's got their crew, whether it's like a label or just like a collective of artists, everyone has that table that they sit at. And some tables are like, let's fucking party. And other tables are like, let's sit and nerd around and play video games and make music. But it's like, there's definitely a place for everyone. And I just like hope that we all though can like move forward coming together because it's like at the end of the day, our industry isn't that big. Like it's not that big. So before you decided that you wanted to curate Asteria and that was going to be like your little baby, you did a background in DJing and you kind of pursued that artist path where you crossed paths with Slushy and other artists when they were all coming up. So I feel like a lot of people who end up working on the back end of the music industry do start as DJs and want to pursue a career path in being an artist. So like, how was that journey into transitioning to saying like, hey, this isn't for me. I'm meant to be here doing this.
It just felt so much more rewarding, like, you know,
Yeah.
as like, you know, helping others with their career and taking everything that I learned, you know, with everything that I did and applying it to their careers and then, you know, them having like, you know, success, and it just, it's just so much more rewarding. It was cool doing the whole, you know, DJing, touring and all that fun stuff. And it just, I just felt like I could just do so much more.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
just, you know, it felt more rewarding being able to get somebody that you know is, it has amazing music but isn't being heard, you know, and get them like the spotlight, and help their career flourish, you know. So
And is that how you got into artist management?
yeah, that's how I got into artist management and just the overall artist development side of things, you know. I felt that it was important to have insight into being an artist yourself, and all those elements, and applying that to your management. It just kind of gives you a more, instead of having like a management point of view, you get like a broader scope of like, you know, the whole picture instead of, you know, just one or two things, which is the same thing as to why I started, you know, doing a label, and why I started doing, you know, um, the artist consultations as well, you know, which aren't artists that I go ahead and manage. Uh,
Hmm.
these are all things and started throwing Asteria in general, you know, because I just felt like having all of these different points of view from you know, from doing, you know, music releases, from artist bookings, from, you know, the branding and management of an artist, you know, bringing all of those aspects together, and just having, you know, that experience has helped me curate, you know, an event that's friendly towards artists and helps artists, instead of it being just like how a regular festival is being thrown. um,
Absolutely.
the label side of things makes me able to, you know, reward an artist how I feel they should be rewarded, as far as like royalties and streaming, you know, breaks they're supposed to go ahead and be. You know, with the management side, I'm able to understand the importance of an artist, you know, needing their time, and being in a stress-free environment to create the music that they need to create in order for their full potential to, you know, go ahead and be shown, you know. And so they don't have to worry about business and this deal and that deal and this and that, you know, so they don't have to stress about that. All of those cohesively put together has helped me be able to bring something to the table that is unique as far as a festival. It's unique in the way that I manage, and it's unique in the way that I develop artists overall, and the experience and advice that I go ahead and give to upcoming artists. It
Absolutely.
all comes into play.
It's like you're kind of putting in the groundwork to understand and utilize like every piece of the pie. And then you use those pieces of the pies and your understanding to help in other concepts and like facets with whether it's your artist or moving forward with Asteria. And I
Yeah.
feel like even if somebody, like even artists, like even DJs, like even if you don't want to be a manager, a promoter, a talent buyer, or you know, a label A&R, like it's important to know and understand what all of these things are and their purpose.
So important. It's extremely important, because then you have artists that have had their friends mismanaging their career, or you have artists that you know, have had somebody perfectly manage their career the whole entire time, and then all of a sudden the manager goes ahead and up and leaves, and then you're stuck with, you know, not knowing what to do, not even knowing where to get started, you know. Or you end up having to fire your friend, or somebody that's incompetent, and then you're left with a mess that you have to go ahead and sort through and sort out. So
Absolutely. And I feel like that happens more times than not, unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. And it's just, you know, it's one of the biggest ones, you know. A lot of artists always go ahead and approach me about playing Asteria, and like, you know, like, oh well, you know, why am I not playing it, or how can I get involved with Asteria, or how can I perform, or why am I not playing, you know, or this and that, you know. And the biggest thing is that that you shouldn't want to go ahead and be playing a festival. The festival should be wanting you to go ahead and play the festival, right? Because those are the things that matter. A local event or festival, even a club show or anything like that, isn't going to be what sets your career off or, you know, takes you anywhere. You know, what's going to really take you places is going to be your music. So you should be at home until you get a phone call or email from said festival that you want to go ahead and play. And that's just the reality of it, right? So
yep. I'm glad you said that. I was like, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? The be at home working thing, because I feel like that's a general misconception to artists, even at like very high levels, is like, you're never going to regret being at home working.
No, and there's some artists that are amazing and incredible, and I think that their production is top notch, and I just don't book them. And the reason that I don't book them is not because they're not good, it's because I know that they're going to be better if they're not fucking focused on playing a fucking festival in April, you know? Yeah. Like if they're putting their time and focus into, you know, their production and, you know, working out the kinks as far as like, you know, their sounds, I know that they're going to be able to bring way better performance later down the road and be able to really bring something special to the table.
And to be like a legitimate artist, not just like a regional booking or a local booking, you know, like there's such a difference. And it's like, that's something that I definitely didn't understand, like off the bat, is like to be legitimately booked and to be a local support act are like two worlds at polar opposite ends.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is that your friends are going to go and support you, right? They're going to the show to support you, but very rarely does anybody remember who the opening act is, or you know, who opened doors, or who even did direct support. Yep. Like a lot of times people don't even remember, you know. So why are you going to make it a priority? You know, yeah. I mean, people need to, artists need to go ahead and realize that the only person that ends up really benefiting from these live shows is your ego. Like locally at that level, the only thing that you get is for you to feel good. Yeah. You played a show in front of your friends and you did it, woohoo, everybody fucking had a blast, everybody was raging, and that's cool and all. And it makes for great memories, right? But it's not going to take you anywhere, right?
That would be correct.
The end result of that is maybe like a few more shows, but what are you going to do after a year of shows locally? Keep playing local shows?
Yep. And so many people, especially in Orlando, get stuck into that box. Yep. And it's like the only way to get out of that box is not even like connection wise. Like I guess it happens sometimes, but like it's a very small percentage. But it's like is taking yourself out of that nightlife scene and saying, okay, I'm going to take all the time that I was doing playing this show for little to no money at all, or fighting to get paid your $50 and sit my butt at home and work.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. I understood that very quickly, and it's crazy to watch like people who I've worked alongside still not get it. And it's like, why do you ask yourself why you're not where you want to be if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results?
Yeah, and it devalues your brand, right? Like, because if you're, you know, and it's different because, you know, like it's different with you because you're a resident in a club.
And I mean, like, I strictly do it though, like, especially now, like, it's a way that I can continue working every day on what I want to do.
Right, but the other thing is that it's a rotating lineup of EDM acts that are come through the way, and not only that, you're also going ahead and you know, putting in the work of, you know, production and doing this, doing podcasts, and, you know, actually making, you know, a name for yourself, right? Yeah, which is completely different in the scenario where someone devalues their brand in the sense of like they're playing every single weekend, but they're not playing anything noteworthy, like, right? They're playing like 6 dive bar shows like in 1 month, And then so even your friends are going to be like, I don't really want to go to this bar and go see you for the 20th time this week, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you start losing that value of bringing people in, and that spreads across the whole entire board, right? Because we talk about attention spans. So the minute that you start making quality music and you want to send it out, you've been too busy sending out all this mediocre stuff that people are going to be hesitant to listen to anything that actually ends up being good, right? Yeah. The time that you actually have a show that's worth your friend's while, that is going to actually be beneficial to you in some sense or degree, it's going to be harder to pull them out and to go ahead and come out and support you when it really actually matters, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like when your door count matters, when, you know, it matters that you're showing up. It's definitely, and I think that speaks for like even music releases too, is like always like quality over quantity, because it's like that's the stuff that people are going to remember. And it's like when you really need your friends to be there, when you really need X, Y, and Z to listen, they're going to be there. There were like a few labels, thankfully, that I'm releasing on next year that had been asking for music for a while, and I was like, I can't send them something that I'm doing right. Like I can't, like my music isn't to the point where they're going to take it, because I don't want to be told no when I finally send them music.
Right. Yep.
So it's like that goes back to being patient and being like, okay, I'm not at that point yet. I'm not ready yet. And
I'm glad that, you know, making, you know, doing podcasts like these, and you know, even though you're the host and you're interviewing people, but it allows you to go ahead and also be transparent with your audience as far as like, you know, how your experience in the music industry has been.
Absolutely.
And allows, you know, whoever you're interviewing to go ahead and be transparent with how their experience in the industry has been. And it allows people to really get an inside look overall as to like, you know, the overall, like what it takes for you to go ahead and be listening to like, you know, like your song, you know, Lizzie's song on Spotify. It's a trip, man. It's a journey. And I mean, you're talking about like, you know, you could probably release the song, like, you know, finish it in February, and you're not even going to see it until like December being released. If you're lucky, if you're lucky.
It's crazy. And it's like by then you look at the song and you're like, wow, that's a piece of shit. And it's coming out right now. And you're like, fuck. And but it's like so true. You should literally just be my spokesperson. But like that's literally why I do this, is because there's such an influx of people. Not only are they at home right now because of COVID, but it's like people just don't get the back end of it. They don't get the back end of being an artist. They don't understand the, you know, reciprocations that it can potentially come with. There's so many highs, but there's so many lows, if not more lows, to balance out the highs. And then they don't get people in your position. They don't get people in my agent's position. They don't understand talent buyers. They don't understand X, Y, and Z that all have to work together in the hamster wheel to make the hamster go forward. And it's like, it all matters. And the more that you as an artist or you as an aspiring talent buyer or an event curator can understand people who have already experienced this and gone through the steps, the more things that they can avoid and not make the same fucking mistakes.
Exactly. And that's why it's been so important for me to do all these artist consultations, right? Because
and most people aren't as nice as you and would not do that.
No, but I'm not the nicest person either. Like I can be like, you know, I can be difficult to work with 100%. But I feel like the more difficult I am to work with is the reason being is because I care about what you're doing. To almost to a personal degree. And that's why, you know, like there's been some consultations where I'm just like, you know, you got to do this and that. And then there's some other consultations where I'm just like, why are you not doing this? You know, like I start screaming and shit, and I like, you know, get frustrated. And it's really because of the fact that I care about the project, because I see the potential that it has, right?
Absolutely.
Frustration that it goes ahead and brings me when a person is so close, but I have to, sometimes I have to go ahead and understand also that a lot of these people don't have the same experiences that I do, which is why I wanted to start doing all this consultations and start talking to them so that I can get a baseline and really good readout of, you know, where everybody's at, what their biggest hurdles are, what do they need the most help with, right? So that we can, artist base, and then eventually everybody else in this community and podcasts like these, can help them, and help them excel forward and make the decision if this is something that they want to get into,
Absolutely.
or look for some sort of guidance so that they know, hey, I'm doing this right, or oh, I'm not doing this right, or I should focus more on this instead of that, and maybe get some reassurances as far as knowing that they're doing the right things, they're taking the right steps, and even though they're not seeing an immediate reward, that they're doing it for the long run, and that they're setting themselves up to be successful for the long run instead of a short run.
And, like all of those things are important to hear. And if you're an individual who cannot take criticisms or be told that, you're not doing this right, or, hey, like this sucks, this is not the line of work for you. And you want, like, if all of your friends just tell you that your song rocks every time you send it to them, they're not the people you should be sending your music to. And it's like, you as an individual, whatever position you hold in this industry, should always want to know how you can be doing better, and always surround yourself with people like, I want to be the least successful person in my green room. Like that's my little thing. But it's like, I want to be around people who make me feel like, hey, like, you're not working hard enough. But it's like, you got to be proud of yourself. Like, obviously, like, you need to like pat yourself on the back. Like, that's just a given. But like, don't surround yourself with the same 4 local DJs who are doing the same thing every weekend. Like,
it's just not going to work to your favor at all.
No.
Right? You're going to end up wasting a lot of time. And the only people that, everybody's friends when they're all at the same level. You know what I'm saying?
And don't be afraid. Like, you're going to lose friends too. Like, you're going to get people, everybody wants to be your friend and everybody's chill with you until you're a level higher than them. And I know that sounds like so like stereotypical or like little like mean girls of me, but like, it's just like, if you're at the same level as the other person who you're chill with, the second you take that step up, they're not chill with you anymore. And it's like, I have people who, like, I'm fighting to one day like hold a position where like I can bring the hard workers up who haven't gotten the recognition and like recognition that they deserve. But a lot of people just hold resentment instead of like, oh, hey, like, I should just ask her what she did. Like, how the fuck did you do that? And it's like, most of the time too, like, there's a lot of nice people in this industry too that will tell you and share what they did with you.
Yeah. And it's difficult, and it gets even harder to find, there's a lot of people that are willing to give you, the basics and all that stuff. But when you start getting into a more advanced sort of situation, you're going to see that those individuals that you can reach out to for help are going to run they're going to be thin to none, and it's important that you keep, strong individuals and like mentors per se in your circle, because you need somebody who's going to be honest with their feedback, because they want to see you succeed, right? They want to see your project go places, and those are the people that you need to team up with, and those are the people that should be managing your team, right? Someone who's actually passionate about what direction your project is going in,
Absolutely.
And somebody who's going to be, they should, you brought up, being your biggest fan, the person who's like, managing you should be your second biggest fan, know, if not right alongside you, as far as like being the number 1 fan, and those people are going to reach out to you, right? In the same way that, booking talent agents are going to reach out to you. You should be waiting to be reached out to and not be reaching out to others, right? When it comes to progressing in this industry, as a music producer, it's just how it goes, you shouldn't be trying to do a million contests for you to go ahead and play some festival that nobody's going to know who you are and only 50 of your friends are going to come support you. Like, that's you should be spending all that time and energy on your craft and honing in on, new projects and finishing up that song that you've been working on. Those are the things that you should be focusing on, because then as a result of finishing that, that's going to put you one step closer to achieving all the things that you're wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It goes hand in hand. And like, the more that you understand the back end of it, the easier it is to like see the path that like you need to take and not avoid. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the future of events is going to be like super interesting moving forward, and seeing how everything's going to start to open up. Like, I mean, do you think lineups are going to change? Like, do you think there's going to be these new characters and new acts like introduced to the regular circuit, or do you think it's just going to go back to being like normal?
Honestly, here's what I think is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is that once again, like everything's going to be like an equal playing field, right? We have a new year. We have a bunch of music that is going to be coming out. We got a bunch of artists that have been, that have been in hibernation, actually working and making music that they're planning on releasing, for 2021. And I feel that we're going to see a readjustment. I mean, we had a bunch of artists get canceled, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, that reset the playing field, and now it's all about who's gonna fucking take advantage of it and come out ball swinging, right? We have a great festival season. We didn't have a festival season last year, so there was nobody that impressed anybody. Let's be honest, right? Like, so now everybody has the floor really to really come out, full swing for 2021, and they can drastically go ahead and change the landscape if they choose to. And fans also have the opportunity to do this too. It's not only the fucking artists.
The fans matter. What the people want to see matters.
And those, like, right now, if you're all about like small artists, this is your opportunity to make sure that your voice is heard, as far as like you wanting those artists to be successful, you wanting those artists to play the EDCs, to play the Electric Forest, to play, Ultra. It's your opportunity to create that demand from zero, because the whole industry was shut down last year. So nobody has data on jack shit. Everybody's relying on data from 2018, right? That's the 2018 and 2019 is the data that everybody's relying on, because realistically, there's no real data for 2020 because everything got canceled.
Yeah.
So y'all have the opportunity, the artists, like the whole industry has an opportunity to set a brand new bar.
Yeah.
Realistically. From how you set up your stages, to how you go ahead and do your lights, to how you create a visual experience, to how you perform live, everything has given us an opportunity to set the bar right at zero and see who's going to go ahead and go full speed ahead and run with it.
Yeah. It's very exciting because I feel like this has not happened in a very long time.
No.
If ever.
But this is why music fans are so important right now. That's why they're so important right now. Because if you've been all about the good, like, the independent artists, if you've been all about, small events, if you've been all about, this is your time to show that support. This is your time to show the big guys at AEG, Live Nation, all those guys. These are the artists that we want to go ahead and see tour the US next year. Like this is your opportunity to show that.
Absolutely. I mean, you pretty much said it all. I mean, do you think moving forward, I know like Eventbrite and Live Nation have been discussing that, they're going to be able to either do rapid testing or have people with the barcodes with the vaccines to have full capacity indoor live events. Do you think that's going to come to fruition? Like, do you think there's going to be a point in time where it's like, if you have a vaccine and you have proof of it? I don't know.
You throw enough money at anything, the problem gets solved,
Yeah.
So,
it's like if you could throw a full capacity festival in a small area, if everybody were to take a vaccine, like, would you do it?
Well, here's the thing. We're already working on that for Asteria.
Okay.
Right? So right now we're already working to search a partner for us to have, like, pre-testing and pre-testing before the event, and then testing on the site, which involves rapid testing, right? Now, rapid testing, the unfortunate thing about rapid testing is that it's not always accurate, right? So any time that we have a negative excuse me, every time that we have a positive, we always have to double check, right?
Yeah.
That it is a positive or whatnot. As you know, as testing and things get progressively less expensive and move forward, we're going to see a huge increase of people that have already taken the vaccine, that have kind of made this the norm, right? Of getting tested, because a lot of workers and employees of a lot of like the workforce is having to go ahead and get tested almost on a regular basis.
Yep.
And so they're already going to know the drill. So I can see that 100% happening, because we're already implementing something similar on our end. As far as vaccinating on site, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but at the same time, we got to see where the distribution is at that point, right? Because everything's being done in phases. So we just kind of have to see where things are at. So I have no disagreement or see any issues or see it not being something that is implemented, industry wide. It's the only thing that goes ahead and kind of secures us, or not secures us fully, or gives us but gives us
some sense of security.
Sense of security, exactly. It gives us a preventative measure that we can put in place.
And that's very important right now with how on edge the majority of the country is.
Right, which is why it's so important to do all these things, as far as looking at the guidelines if you're throwing events, making sure that you're following everything that you're supposed to, and making sure that your guests' health and safety is your priority, especially during this time. You know?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm really excited for the next year. I want to hope that it's fucking better than this year. I'm gonna say everything's pointing to it being better than this past year. But I just wanted to thank you for coming on. This has honestly been like one of my favorite episodes, because like the goal of this is to give information. Like I love hearing about stories from artists and experiences and all of that stuff, but like this is the stuff that people and aspiring artists can take away, as well as people who aspire to be in your position, where I really feel like they can learn and be like, oh shit, like I didn't know about X, Y, and Z, and now I have one take from these two people on it, if you feel me.
I think that it's important. Like I was saying, it's super important that you're doing this, and I'm supportive of it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you bringing me on. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone, especially if you're in Florida, especially if you're not in Florida, please keep your eyes and updates on Asteria Arts and Music Festival for 2021. We're going to cross our fingers. These guys are doing it right, and the lineup is just absolutely insane. I will be playing, so I'm really excited too. And thank you so much, Mig. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.